everybody. It's Angemaler again, and today I'm at home with a sick kid, so thought I'd do something nice and cozy, and so we're gonna play around with gear sets and glamour plates. So, I am currently in the inn in Gridania, which has a whole bunch of stuff related to being able to do your outfits and do what's called glamour plates, and I'm going to show all that to you. So, here we go. I am wearing my Christmas outfit on my bard, and I need to change it because it is no longer Christmas. So, there are some things to know. On your character, you can have a lot of different stuff as, one thing per gear slot, essentially, depending on what level you are and everything. The issue is, you can have multiple characters, what do I want to say? You can be multiple jobs. You don't have to pick just one. So, like, when I played World of Warcraft, I remember one of the things was if you wanted to play something other than the class you picked, you had to make a new character. And that's not the case here, so I can, right now, I'm an archer, but then I can switch to my main, which is a scholar. And so, switching between all of these different jobs can be cumbersome if you don't, number one, create gear sets, and then number two, glamour them to look the way you want them to look. So this is like my glamoured hippie gear set, patchouli not included. But again, if I want to switch to one of my other jobs, so in this case the archer, which I can actually go get my bard soul crystal, I just haven't done it yet. That'll be for another time. So you can obviously swap out your gear because my archer cannot wear the same gear as my scholar. The sick child just scared the crap out of me. Come here, you. Come here, you sicky boy. Yeah, you scared the crap out of Mama. So, David, do you know what Mama's doing?
Going to be crafting!
No, I'm not going to be crafting. I'm going to be showing how to change my gear sets.
Gear sets?
Gear sets, yeah, so like... No? Yeah, what's that one? Scholar. So now... Yep, so now what we're going to do...
show how you change.
Well, first we're going to show how to make gear sets. Yeah. And what you do is, whatever job you're on, it is always related to whatever's in your main hand. So whatever you place in your main hand, that's the job that you are. That's how that's determined. And so you can, equip one of those things, and then you can create or build your gear set around that job and the level that job is at. So, for example, you can see I've got a lot of work to do as far as my different disciples. For hand, I've got a few that are climbing up there, and then land, I've got one of the lands all the way up to 80, and then over here on my disciples of war and magic, I've also got a lot of work to do. There are some classes I've never even started. So again, when you pick up a new quest to start a new class, it's all related to this first weapon that they hand you, and when you equip that, that sets that particular class. Right, David? Right. So, when you go into your armory chest, which mine's a disaster, under your main hand, again, depending on what you equip, it will change your job or your class. So for example, if I equip this white skillet, I will change into a culinarian. Or if I equip this saw, I will change into a carpenter. So it's all based on your main hand weapon. What? What? What are you showing, huh? David's driving. Now what do I change into? That's not a paladin. Read. Read. What's that say? Dark Knight. Yes. Dark Knight. But you'll notice that some of the gear may have been taken on or off based on what I equipped there, because you can't wear all gear for all classes. Some gear is restricted to certain classes or certain levels. Correct. So, now let's see here. You do not get to drive. No, you don't get to drive. But you can sit here with Mama. Or nope. Is he done? Okay, he's gonna go back to the couch. My little sick goblin gonna go back to the couch. Yes. Okay. So, now again, each piece of gear for each slot, again, you've got, these are all of your slots for each piece of gear, or for each character set. You can equip them if you can. So for example, this main hand weapon is only equipable by Dark Knights, because that, again, that signifies the job that you're doing. Whereas some gear, like this one for example, this goatskin ring, the only restriction is that you have to be level 20. But it's clearly for, it's meant for gatherers, but any class can wear it. You just have to be level 20, doesn't matter what class it is. So, what you can do is equip your main hand weapon. So I'm going to come back here and put my bow on. That should change me over to an archer again. And once you have that bow once you have your main hand weapon selected, you can then hit this little recommended gear icon, and what it'll do is it'll show you all of the gear that you have in your armory chest that you should equip for this particular class. And then what you can do, once you have your gear all set, is that you can create a gear set. So again, and so if you're just looking at your character here, that's the recommended gear. This is glamour plates, which I'll get to in a minute. And then this is your gear set list. So you can click on gear set list, and then if you've never created one before, this will be blank. But if you hit this plus icon up here, you can create a new gear set. And so it'll automatically create it with, again, it's all based on that main hand weapon, and you see that it's created the archer class. Now, once you create that, you can right click on it. You can either move the set up and down the list, you can reassign the set number, you can reassign gear, you can change the set name. So for example, my set name for my archer I actually just called Bard. You can also link to a glamour plate, which again I'll get to what that is as well. So I'm actually going to delete that set. Yes. Okay, and then so now that you have this whole list of gear sets, at any point in time you can select that set and say equip set. It will equip all the gear that you had saved to that set, rather than having to one by one manually equip each piece of gear related to each of your jobs or classes. And again, because there are so many jobs and classes that you can be with so many different sets of gear, it's very, very critical to do gear sets in order to quickly change from one set to another. And you'll notice I have some that have these little warning icons. So at some point in time, for my monk class, I'm missing my main arm, which means I have to go out and probably, I'll either have to equip a main arm that was previously not assigned to the gear set because I must have either desynthesized or traded or sold my main arm that is currently linked to this class. Good for me, right? So that it's just, it happens. You accidentally sell your main weapon and it's a whoops. So, now in this case, along with having your gear sets all nicely arranged so that they're quickly accessible, you can also glamour your outfits. So glamours, if you have ever seen these, glamour prisms, they used to come in different flavors in previous versions of Final Fantasy, but in the current iteration of glamour prisms, there's only one type. This is it. And what a glamour prism is it allows you to capture a piece of equipment the way it looks and assign it to the gear that you're wearing, which is why I look like, Santa Claus right now. It's because I have placed a glamour on that gear. And if I mouse over anything that has been glamored, you'll notice that the title of the gear is rotating in between what the gear actually is, which is the Gridanian soldier's overcoat, to the little plus icon, which is what it is glamored to look like, which in this case it's glamored to look like the Starlight robe. And you can do that manually with your glamour prisms. So at any point in time, I can right click on a piece of gear and then say cast glamour, and then what it'll do is it'll bring up a list of items that are pants, essentially, and it'll highlight any of the ones that you can actually glamour to based on what's in your inventory. And then as long as you've got the glamour prism to do it, you're good to go. The more efficient way to do this is if you want your archer to have a particular look all the time, you create glamour plates. And glamour plates are done with glamour dressers and your armoire. And these are accessible in a few different places. One is in any of the main city-state inns. That's also accessible in the area where you can do your it's like officer assignments. Stuff that I don't do very often, but every now and then. So again, right now I'm in the Gridanian Inn. Gridania is my sort of, I would consider it my main home city-state, and this is where I primarily travel to for free. So it's natural that this would also be typically where I go to for an inn. So now, what are the glamour dresser and the armoire? If you right click on them, and if I say store an item in my armoire, for example, you can store some items, not all, some, and I only have one at the moment that's in my inventory. So the cane of the Shrine Guardian, for example, I can store that in my armoire because it's usually these are special event items. So if I store this, it'll say that it's, Spirit Bond will go to 0% condition to 100, yes. So I've essentially stored that in my armoire for free. So if I look at what's in my armoire, again, these are special items. So for example, I have all of my level 45 and level 50. These are sort of like your main class gear set rewards for going through main story for that particular class. And then I also have a couple of the weapons. So for example, this is the saw that you get when you complete the level 50 carpenter quest. And so these are special gear items that you only get for certain things. So again, one is your artifact armor, seasonal gear. So for example, I did the songbird stuff, so I was able to put all of that stuff in there along with the Spriggan stuff. Whole bunch of summer stuff, so this is the yukatas, the Southern Sea swimsuits, the Fair Joy, all of this stuff. And again, it's free to store it here, and you can imagine all of this stuff takes up a lot of inventory. So here's my Halloween stuff. I have the witch, vampire, and werewolf set. These are from New Year's and Christmas, so my Starlight robe is in here, along with a couple of kabutos. This is from Yokai Watch, and then also for crossover events, so including the Lucian Prince's jacket, all of that stuff. These are from achievements, so just depends on what it is again. And then exclusive extras in my little man's back. Hi, what's up? Cubby. And then these are your exclusive extras, are usually related to achievements for how long you've played the game, things like that. But again, your armoire stuff is very unique, special holiday items. And then your Glamour dresser is where you can store more stuff. You can have, at the moment, you can have up to 400 items. I have about a quarter of that in here at the moment. And then within each piece of your dresser, main hand, offhand, head, body, hands. Again, each section has the different things that you have stored in it. Some I barely have anything in it. And so, back up. Now, I just recently got something new from, during Map Monday, we did, which one is it? Yeah, body. I got a new piece of gear that I want to add to my dresser. Now, adding it to your dresser means that you can no longer just equip it. You can no longer just wear. There it is, Expeditioner's Tabard. I don't believe I have that in here yet. And so what this is a collection of all of the gear. This is just the body piece, by the way, where I just literally like the way it looks. And these are things that do not include things that are in my armoire. And so I'm going to add this, the Expeditioner's Tabard. So it will consume a Glamour Prism from my inventory in order to do it. It'll reset the Spirit Bond to 0%, condition to 100, meow 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 meow, yes. And now this is part of my Glamour dresser. Now I can make outfits, and those are done through Glamour plates. So if I go into edit Glamour plates, the plates mean that for each numbered plate set here, you can create a custom look. So for example, this number 1 plate is the look that I have assigned to my scholar. It's very specific in terms of the gear. So for example, I'm using the Ravel Keeper's chest wrap of healing. It's a very popular one because, as you can see, it's beautiful. And so even after I could know it was no longer appropriate in terms of gear to wear for the stats, I immediately placed it in my Glamour dresser. And then I also dyed it. So as you can see when I click mouse over this, it also says the color dye that's been applied to it. So I've used general purpose pure white dye on top of the Ravel Keeper's chest wrap. Now if you right click on it, you can either remove the image from the plate or you can also dye it. So for example, by dyeing it from the plate, you do have to make sure that you have all of the necessary dye in order to do it. So this is sort of the default if I was to put it back to its original color. Versus, let's say if I wanted to do something outrageous like reptile metallic green or whatever, so you can preview it. And again, this becomes part of the look of what's on the plate. So by applying it once in your Glamour plate creation, it applies it permanently, so you don't have to keep using pots of dye over and over again as well. I've also assigned the Ravel Keeper's half gloves of healing, Ravel Keeper's sandals of healing, and so again, I've kind of kept the same outfit look. So it's the whole Ravel Keeper set, essentially. I have nothing assigned to the leg slot at the moment, mostly because I didn't really care. The skirt seems to cover up most everything. I've also assigned my Master Arcanist's ring on one side. And then for the neck, I've assigned Emperor's New Necklace, which means that it makes it look like you're nude. There's nothing there. It makes it look nude, essentially. And the Emperor's New Earrings, which also, again, just kind of makes the earrings disappear. Because on bunnies, earrings look ridiculous. It's just awful. And so that is my Scholar set. And again, you can assign multiple sets. So this is my current Summoner set. I may change that soon. This is sort of a generic low-level one, and so for something like this, if I've selected and used all classes level 1 items, it means that I can glamour this to any set I so chose. And so when you do pick up items that do say all classes level 1, it usually means that it's meant to be a glamour item. It's not meant to be something that you keep in your inventory. Now, and you'll see like some stuff is very specific. So this is the Gyuki leather jacket. I love it. I can only use that on a Disciple of Land class. So right now that's assigned to my botanist. The botanist, however, the hatchet is specific to my botanist, which means that my level 7 gear set, my level 7 plate is specific to my botanist. I can't equip this to anything else. Also, I've got my master botanist's ring on there. So now if I wanted to, I could also add more. So for example, I could add, if I click on the ears slot, it'll bring up everything in my gear, in my glamour dresser, so I could assign the Emperor's New Earrings. And I could go to neck and assign the Emperor's New Neck. I don't have anything in wrists. And then I can save. Now, there's my carpenter, my alchemist. Gotta have the nerd glasses, right? And here was the Christmas set that I made. Wore it around the holidays. And then I believe the rest of my plates are empty. So, I'm going to edit my Christmas plate because it's not Christmas anymore. So, under main hand, if I so chose, I could glamour a main hand. This would restrict it to a very specific class because again, main hands are class specific. But I'm not going to do that. So under body, I'm going to select my new body piece that I just added, which is the Expeditioner's Tabard. And one thing about the tabard, if you look at the fact that it says all classes level 1, and then just below that, it says fits all, and then it has the female symbol. It means that this is only equipable by females. Men can't wear these. So if you're a male character, you can't even put this on. When it dropped in the dungeon we were in, the men weren't even allowed to roll on it. You couldn't knead on it, you could only greet it. So that's how specific that is. Now on top of that, you may also have gear that's restricted to particular races. So for example, if I was to go under my... let me see. Let me go to my hands. I have Ellison half gloves. And so I used to be an Ellison before I race changed to Vieira. And so under the section that says fits, you'll notice that it specifically says Ellison females, which means that I could only use the Ellison half gloves. Number 1 if I was Ellison, and number 2 if I was female, and those are the 2 restrictions. But I did kind of like this new... I'm gonna change. I'm gonna do the... I do like the Emperor's New gloves, or the Emperor's New fill in the blank with whatever they are as gear, because they allow you to essentially make that piece invisible, which is rather nice. So I'm going to go under my legs, and let's see what I've got here to make this look. I'm going to equip my favorite is the Expeditioner's thigh boots. They are my absolute favorite boots. I wear them pretty much with everything. So let's see here. Could do the Emperor's, and then I'm just wearing my underpants. So let's see here. Now that would be very specific. I'd only be able to wear those under healing classes. So let's pick something else. Scion Traveler's Trousers. Pajamas! You're trying to scare me again. No, are you sure? You were trying to scare me again. Yes. You are wearing your pajamas. You're not skipping school, you're staying home to keep the rest of your class from getting the plague that you have. Mm-hmm. Actually, let me go under... There was another piece that I wanted to add under my head. It was this one. This hairpin is something that I can actually... I'm gonna save this. Not main hit off him. This one. Nope, no, where is it? There's the hairpin. So, and if you want, you can try on anything by right-clicking and then go to try on. And so it'll bring up an icon of your character in a fitting room, and it'll show you what it looks like. So I actually kind of like that, and I'm going to add that to my glamour dresser. That's one thing that I thought was rather pretty. I'm gonna go back, edit my glamour plates. Let's see, do I like this? This looks like it's actually dyeable also. Whoa! Could do reptile green, ladies and gentlemen. I do like white every now and then, but... It is nice to see how the dyes will change the way a particular piece looks. And as you're in preview mode, you can also tell it to show all equipped gear, for example, so you can actually see what something looks like. Now, in this case, I'm wearing some interesting looking gear, but... The blue is pretty, but I think I'm gonna keep it this color for now. Looks really nice, doesn't it? Now you can say apply, and that will immediately apply what you've got on to... it'll apply the plate to what you've got on. The other way you can do it is then if you come into your character, go to glamour plates, it'll bring up your glamour plates, and again you do need to be in a city state to do this, and then you can also apply it there. The other way to do it, into your gear set list, go under your character, and then you can say link to a glamour plate, and then select the glamour plate that you wish to apply it. Now that means that as long as you're in a city state, it will try to reapply those glamours. And in this case, since I already had it attached, it won't immediately do it, but I'll do apply. And there we are. So now I am wearing something a little bit more appropriate since we're no longer in the holidays. I do like this though. I think this is going to be a good archer look. So I have some favorite things that I tend to wear with almost everything. And again, if you decide that, you know, what you want to use in your outfit is not coming from your glamoured pieces that are in your glamour dresser, you can also open your armoire and it'll show you everything in your armoire for the particular gear set you have selected. So for example, if I go under my seasonal gear, I could detach Spriggan bottoms, for example. And then I can dye those if I wanted to. Or, you know, the ladies' knickers in black. Or, werewolf bottoms. Oh good, the tail's not attached. The Lucian Prince's bottoms. But actually, I think I like the Whisperfine. I've used the Whisperfine woolen shorts for a lot of different gear sets, and as you'll notice, you can't see the Christmas colored stockings because of the boots I'm wearing, so it just means you've got a nice plain gray skirt, so I like it a lot. Other things that I like that are level 1, the survival shirt, it is dyeable and it just has a really nice sort of like t-shirt look to it. And I like it a lot. Again, my favorite boots are the Expeditioner's thigh boots. I really like the Emperor's New fill-in-the-blank with the gear set, because those are nice to glamour over the top of everything. I also like... Let me see... What else do I use a lot? For hands, I do tend to use my racial hands, but I also have the Thavnarian gloves. Those actually work out really nicely, especially for just kind of like a sort of like a brownish, I don't know how to describe them, rough looking set, not rough, outdoorsy set. Obviously there are some that, like my my culinarian set, where's my there she is. My maid set, of course, is all fluff and froof. Got the pumps, I got the whole outfit, and as you'll notice, I can actually wear this brimmed hat. Because I'm a Vieira, there are very few hats that you can actually wear. I was very happy to see that the housemaid's brim is one of the ones that I can wear. Kitty cat. And you need to stop sneaking up on me, mister. Because I'm gonna scream into the microphone. No, it would not be so good to scare me. And so those are getting all dressed up. So again, that is talking about your gear set list, changing into your recommended gear, and glamour plates. And again, all of this stuff, the dresser and the armoire, that is all accessible usually from the inns